Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, and give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Kakodash. Double honor to the apostles, a great millstone that taught me this truth, and blessings to all you sincere laborers out there pushing this truth in all sincerity and faith and honesty. I'm my fellow servant, Kanakla, coming to you once again from GMS Tampa Bay 12 on Apostle Service, St. Petersburg, Florida. And I would like to thank Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do another lesson. Now, this lesson will be, titles of something to the effect of World War III, recession. Actually, I should say depression, all right? Because as you can see, a Great Depression is headed, first, United States, but this is going to be globally, all right? This is going to be a Great Depression, globally. Everyone is going to feel this one. All right. But we all know after the Great Depression in 1929, World War II started shortly after. Because what it is war generates money. Okay. The banks finance, the countries. All right. And then, manufacturing of weapons, ammunition, so on and so forth. All right. And then countries sell to other countries weapons. All right. Like you had all this year, everybody was seeking out to buy the Russian S-400 or S-300 missile defense system. All right. Matter of fact, before I play that, let me see it real quick. Countries buy S-300. All right, right here, and this was see how recent this is. Either been last year or this year. All right, so this is just November 14th. So this was, you could pretty much say this is 2018. It's like the last, the second month. It's like the second to the last month of 2018. It says at least 13 countries are interested in buying a Russian missile system instead of platforms made by U.S. companies, despite the threat of sanctions. All right, so the S-400 system. Okay, it's pretty much a anti-ballistic missile system. Matter of fact, I can just read this real quick right here. This one. It says the S-400 is a mobile, long-range surface-to-air missile system. Is the Kremlin's answer to America's Patriot and THAAD platforms. Lockheed Martin makes the THAAD a terminal high-altitude area defense system. All right. So pretty much, if someone was to shoot a missile or any kind of, air, missile projectile, this system will pretty much, intercept it, and before it hits your country or your homeland or your military base. All right, it pretty much intercepts it. So a lot of countries are seeking out to buy this. And why is that? Because all these countries can clearly see, all right, that the way that this world is heading into, man, is pretty much heading into a third world war, and all these countries are gearing up. And what I want to start this off with, the brother here, he be posting a lot of prophetic videos and news. This brother got a heavy spirit of prophecy on him. All right. So I'm gonna play this video right here real quick.
$55 billion worth of weapons to its allies and partners around the world, even as arms sales to allies like Saudi Arabia were heavily criticized. RT's Rachel Blevins joins me to break this all down. Rachel, how did 2019 compare to years in the past?
Well, Sarah, it's no secret that the United States exports more weapons than any other country in the world, and the numbers from 2019 were on track with previous years under the Trump administration. Now, according to a new report, U.S. foreign military deals in fiscal year 2019 totaled $55.4 billion. Now, this is slightly less than the $55.6 billion in deals from 2018, which was a 33% jump from $41.93 billion in 2017. Now, when comparing the current figures to deals from previous administrations, reports noted that the Obama administration approved more than $278 billion in foreign arms sales in its 8 years, which was more than double the total of arms sales approved by the Bush administration. Now, the weapons that are most commonly exported by the United States include combat aircraft, unmanned aerial vehicles, anti-tank missiles, naval gun systems, and guided weapon systems. The U.S. regularly supplies weapons to at least 98 countries, which is around half of the countries in the entire world. And as the war on terror has continued over the last 18 years, U.S. arms sales to countries in the Middle East have increased significantly. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the U.S. accounted for nearly half of the weapons imported by the Middle East between 2013 and 2017. The director of the Defense Security Cooperation Agency referred to arms sales as a tool of first resort for U.S. foreign policy, and he said allies buy weapons from the U.S. because Washington sells the world's most advanced defense systems. He went on to say, quote, "Through the uniquely American approach to security cooperation, we also ensure our allies and partners have all the necessary training, education, and institutional capacity to effectively employ and sustain the equipment we provide." However, the sale of those advanced U.S. weapons is creating concerns as Saudi Arabia continues to top the list of countries that import arms from the U.S. This includes an $8 billion deal from this year that Trump signed an emergency declaration in order to achieve. In addition to having a long history of human rights concerns, Saudi Arabia has used the weapons it receives from the U.S. in an ongoing brutal war in the poorest country in the Middle East, which has created the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. Now, Sarah, with the latest deployment of American troops to Saudi Arabia, it looks like not only are these arms sales going anywhere, but it also looks like the close relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia won't be breaking up anytime soon.
That, and it looks like these arms sales will continue to get bigger, if not stay at the same rate. Thank you for that report, Rachel.
Thank you.
So that's just an example of what happens during a time of war. All right, the sales of arms rise. All right, military equipment, the sales rise. Okay, and you can clearly see America is supplying 98 countries with weapons. All right, so and go to show you too, man. America is the one that's causing all this violence in the earth. All right, Esau, Edom. Okay, the so-called white man. That's his blessing. And they go off they paint the picture. Oh, we sell the most highly advanced, sophisticated weapons. Whatever. But then when you really search into that, those same weapons, end up into the hand of so-called what you call terrorists. Okay, it backfires, so-called backfires on them. And they wonder how ISIL or whatever you want to call them, because they change the name, up so constantly. How did ISIL get hold of these weapons? All right. How did these terrorists get hold of these weapons? Okay, but that's one example of what happens during a war. All right, the arms sales go up, and all your manufacturing companies. All right, assembly lines. What gets replaced with that? Boots. Bullets. All those factories get turned into weapon manufacturers. All right, whether they make shoes, whether they pour orange juice. Okay. all those, assembly lines get changed up, and then that's, what gives Americans jobs during a time of war. You're gonna be in there, making military gear, an assembly line, putting together rifles. All right, but that's just one of the things that happens during a war. The sales of arms go up, and that's what's gonna happen. Because let me go to this right here. The economy is doing terrible, man.
Some banks, it seems like they're going at the speed of yesteryear, but not here. This is Capital One, where you can open a new savings account in about 5 minutes and earn 5 times the net.
Bankers are also trading lower after reporting auto sales for the third quarter. Ford is seeing weak demand for those highly profitable F-Series pickups. GM missing estimates altogether, and Fiat Chrysler's numbers just crawling.
Kind of just for the record, the Ford F-150 was like I know it's the number one selling truck, all right, in America. But if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it, maybe like the number one selling car in America. All right, if not, it's the Japanese, maybe the Corolla, the Camry, or the CRV. But in America, that F-150 truck is highly sought after.
Higher by 0.1% versus last year. For more on what all this means for the auto market, I am joined by Andrew Hawkins, who's a senior transportation reporter at The Verge, and our own Phil LeBeau. And gentlemen, welcome to you both. Phil, just first of all, I mean, how much of a miss are we seeing for auto sales here?
For the third quarter, even though you saw the negative numbers from Ford, keep in mind it had a huge third quarter last year. So you're doing a comparison there. Overall, for the industry, the third quarter was slightly higher than compared to last year. And the pace of sales this year, Kelly, it used to be at about 16.8 million vehicles in the first and second quarter. Now it looks at about 17 million. That's the pace of sales year to date. So that's a little bit better than people were expected, but a couple of caveats in there. One, the percentage of these sales that are fleet sales, that are either going to rental car companies, government agencies, large corporations, that percentage continues to increase while retail sales pulls back a little bit. And the other thing...
See? And that's what they don't tell you. You talking about fleet vehicles, all right? That's what's still making the sales look good. The where you see your local law enforcement driving around in new Ford Explorers, all right, and government vehicles, they drive around in new, whatever, Chevrolet Suburbans, blacked out Chevrolet Suburbans. Just fleet vehicles. And then when you sell, when you wholesale like that, if a police department buys like 50 to 100 Explorers, they get a discount on those prices. All right, so that's the only reason why the sales will even look somewhat decent. But when you talk about the consumer, like myself and every average American, the sales aren't good, man.
To keep in mind is we still have the last 3 months of the year, so we could see sales pull back. But at this point, Kelly, we are looking at industry on pace for a 5th straight year of vehicle sales of at least 17 million, something we've never seen before.
Yeah, and it's an issue, Phil, that you've hit a lot, but the Journal highlights today the 7-year auto loan, saying that America's middle class can't afford its cars. Andrew, I wanted to ask you about that. And what does it tell us about?
And that's the point. America's middle class can't afford it. And the middle class, that's the lifeline, man. All right, that is the lifeline. That is the lifeline, all right, of the economy. Because once the middle class is gone, you either have rich or you have the poor. Plain and simple.
The health of the auto market and the economy.
I think it means that there's potentially some storm clouds in the future. I think it.
So you have, and there you have Esau. Of course it's CNBC. Of course, you have the first Edomite saying it's doing good, but he had to mention that those are mostly fleet sales. all right, when you got a company, all right, buying a bunch of cars all at once, you know, and then when those companies buy those cars all at once, you know, they end up selling them as used cars, especially if it's like a rental car place. And then once again, those are rental cars. They making money off of those cars. It ain't like they're buying the cars. I mean, like, it ain't like people going out and purchasing those cars. They're being used for a week or two, and then they're being returned back, man. You know. But here it is. This guy is saying, yeah, storm clouds gathering, and that's clearly what it is, man. All right.
Especially in light of this report from the Journal, but this is sort of piggybacking on a long list of investigations into the loan industry. There's a host of predatory loans, I think, that are causing some concern. But yeah, the fact that the loan cycle has been stretched out 7 years is a figure that we really haven't seen too much of in recent history, and it's unclear that the middle class can really afford the vehicle.
And actually, 7 years, you know. When it has to be stretched out 7 years, they give you more time, you know, to pay on it. All right, they don't really like that to loan you out, you know, a car for 7 years. You know, God damn it, it's like it. You know, they don't really like to, you know, loan you out a car for 7 years, man. All right, mostly they want to keep it in a range of like 3 to 4 years, maybe. All right, but a whole 7 years, you know that's something unheard of. And then, you know, the longer, you know, it takes the longer time you get, you know, the longer time you get to pay off that loan, the more interest you get charged. Okay, versus a 2 year or 3 year or whatever, 3 years on average, you know, the interest rate's not that high. But when you get a car, you know, for 7 years, you know, it takes longer for them to get their money back, so they're gonna charge you more interest. Okay.
That they're buying into, and whether or not the rates that they're paying are necessarily going to be something that they can afford as well. People are rolling loans into previous debts that they have as well.
Wow.
So that it seems clear that there are some potentially troubling sides up ahead with when it comes to how people are purchasing their vehicles.
Sure. So Phil, play this out for us. I mean, one of the things we learned from the last downturn was that people kept making their car payments largely.
Right.
I'm sure that's feeding into why they're so eager to extend credit this time around. But that doesn't mean prices can go up forever, or that credit, you know, can get extended like that forever.
Well, yeah, at some point there is a breaking point, Kelly. Look, right now the average monthly payment, that's what you have to look at. You don't focus as much on these reports of, well, people can't make their payments, because those reports right now, we're below the industry average, Kelly. So you can't go out there and say, people are losing their cars, they're being repossessed. That's not happening yet.
Right.
Are there warning signs it could happen? You bet. But right now, the average monthly payment is $550 on average. Will it go up to $600? I don't think so, but we track that every quarter, and it is inching higher and higher.
But Andrew,
they track it every quarter and it's inching higher and higher. $550? Man, that's a lot of money a month, yo.
even as that payment stays low, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the housing bubble last time around, because these loans and terms were able to keep the carrying costs quite low. Prices went,
as you see right there, forward down 20%. All right.
High, but ultimately, when the whole thing unraveled, people got underwater, and the music sort of stopped playing there. Again, I don't think autos pose any kind of systemic threat necessarily, but who's most exposed here once that cycle turns?
I think it's the people, especially who are taking the loans with the worst deals and the worst sort of outlook there. I think, in the Journal report showed that, a very small fraction of the American population can afford to pay cash for their vehicles. It's clear that loans are sort of the primary way in which people are acquiring new cars. I think it's just, there needs to be some consumer education that goes into a lot of this. I think people walk into a dealership and they don't really sort of realize a lot of the points that can get tacked on at the end of the deal. I think people get very enticed by very attractive-looking monthly payments that they would have to put up. And I think they need to look at the entire deal as a whole, not necessarily those monthly payments.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And that's Esau Edom for you, man. You know, this is society. This society is over with, man. You know, the sales tax. You know, the car is listed. Let's say average car listed for like $15,000, and I'm talking about economy car like a Corolla or something. It might list at $17,000, brand new. And then by the time they end up adding them taxes, that shit $20,000, man. Everything added on. All right, this society is done, is over. People are broke, people are stressed out, and people have no money, man. All right, and that's pretty much it. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm gonna finish that video. That's it. And you know, read the comments. I like these comments. It says, are people growing a brain and realizing that a 500-month payment for 7 years on a depreciating asset is a bad idea, right? Let the industry die. They deserve their death due to greed. Exactly. Shouldn't have bailed anyone out, and a lot of them people should have gone to jail, right? Because that's who really stealing the money from the people. Right? Markets are tanking. U.S. is in huge trouble, and people know that. Without a car, people can't get to work. So it's systemic threat. 1929, here we come. And you know what happened in 1929? The Great Depression, man. All right. It says, so if sales are up, then why are unsold new cars parked everywhere? And there's people asking questions, you know, because that one dude said, oh, sales are up. Yeah, but you talking about sales to like fleet, wholesale, like sell to like fleet companies, man, where they rent cars out, or they government issued vehicles, or either they're taxi cabs or something, man. You don't got people going up just purchasing, getting loans and getting vehicles, man. All right, because people don't want to have to deal with that payment every month. $550 is average. All right, so what about the people that's not, that don't have an average? They has bad credit. Damn bill be like $600, man. I know people right now paying $600 a month for a car, man. It's ridiculous. All right, but we can see, this place is in bad shape, and also too, been watching this. Also too, the U.S. Treasury bonds. If you brothers know anything about the yield curve, if not, I'll leave some information in the description box so you can get a better understanding of of these bonds. But pretty much this is 1 month, all right, 2 months, and this is on those bonds, U.S. Treasury bonds. So here it is, 3 months. Interest rate is like 1.66. 1 month is at 1.75. So the yield curve is inverted, man. All right, this is not normal. So I'm gonna show you how, because 1 month the interest rate is at this damn thing. All right, so 1 month the interest rate is 1.75. All right, and usually it's supposed to be the longer, the longer you have the loan, which is down here. Down here you got the 1 year, 1 month, 1 year, 3 years, 7 years, 20 years. All right, so 1 month, 1.75, 3 months, 1.66, 1 year, 1.58. So already it's inverted. Okay, so it's supposed to be the shorter, all right, the month is, the lesser the interest rate. As you can see, 3 months is cheaper, 1.66 interest. 1 year is 1.58 interest. 2 years 1.58 interest. Then 3 years 1.56. Then 5 years is 1.56. And 7 years is 1.6. So you mean to tell me uh, that 7 year stretch, the interest rate is cheaper than 1 month, or the same as 3 months? Then it drops, and then it starts to go back up. Then 10 years is 1.76. All right. And that's really what people pay attention to, the 1 year to the 10 year. Okay. But I can't really explain this in this whole video like this. It's have to be something I have to write down, but just search up yield curve and inverted yield curve. You understand what I'm talking about if you don't. Okay. But pretty much we're entering into a depression. I won't even say a recession, because it's going to be a depression when this one falls. And we're going to have to go to war. All right. That's why you see the arms sales going up, so on and so forth. All right. And what else did I wanted to get before I close out? Like I said, I don't really have this nothing really lined up, but I'm gonna get into the scriptures and I'm gonna close out with Revelation 11 and 12. It says, "And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them." All right. And that's talking about the elect, the 144K and the 1/3. All right. That consists of you women and children and helps of the prophets. Going up into the so-called UFO, the chariot. All right. Being saved from this destruction. It says, "And at the same hour was there a great earthquake, and a 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. That's talking about the earthquake, is talking about the nuclear destruction. All right. America being ultimately destroyed. The scripture say the earth shall reel to and fro. When all those missiles hit, it's going to feel like an earthquake. It says, and slain of men 7,000. And that's a complete number. It says, and the remnant were frightened, those that made it through, and gave glory to the Father, to the power of heaven. It says, and this is the point, the second war was past. All right, the second World War, it started in I believe it was in 1939, if I'm not mistaken. All right, it says, "Behold, the third war cometh quickly." So here it is, the third World War cometh quickly, and woe represents destruction. All right, it says, "And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world become the kingdoms of our Lord and of Christ, which is Yahushua, and he shall reign forever and ever." Because in the midst of this third world war, this global war that's getting ready to take place, the war to end all wars, the one who you ignorantly calls Jesus Christ is going to return, man. Right, in the midst of the third world war, and he's going to lay a sore stroke, all right, upon all these nations, man, while they're engaged in fighting with each other. That's when he's going to come in, and then they're going to begin to fight him. That's why it says in the kingdoms of the Lord, it says, saying the kingdoms of this world become the kingdoms of the Lord, because the Lord is going to take down all these kingdoms, all these nations. All right, it says, and he shall reign forever and ever, verse 16. "And the 24 elders which sat before the Most High, and their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped the Most High, saying, We give thee thanks, O Lord God Almighty, which art and was and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and has reigned." And that's what he's going to come. He's going to come and reign on the earth. All right. The kingdom of heaven is going to be right here on earth. It says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets." So you brothers got to continue, man. All right. Unto the end, it says, "Unto the saints and them that fear thy name." So even the 1/3, some of you sisters that's out there listening, all right. It says, "Small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth." And who's destroying earth? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. So the Lord is coming back to take him out of power. It says, "And the temple of God was open in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunders and earthquakes and great hail." Right? So the third world war is coming. That's why we in this depression, everything's slowing down. I did not mean
In the world of finance, we are often quick to forget.
All right. And there's another video you can watch, the Great Depression, 5-minute history lesson, but also too, you can just watch the Depression, 1929 Depression, watch what happened, where people actually, had to, soup kitchens and things were set up, rationing. All right. You had to use a lot of money, a barrel of money just to buy a loaf of bread. This is what we're coming to, but this is gonna be worse, right? So with that, Lord willing, edified. Only of all praise going on to Yahweh Bashim Shai, Bashim Kakadash, that once the apostles of great millstone taught me his truth, and blessings all you sincere labors out to push his truth, in all sincerity and faith and honesty. Shalom.